Monday morning. The alarm is ringing cheerfully, and you vaguely remember you've already hit the snooze button, maybe not even once. You force your eyes open into narrow slits and look through the haze at the clock. 5:30. 5:30? You leap out of bed, sleep driven from your brain with an electric jolt. Work starts at 9, and you'll definitely be late already, but you may yet make it before lunch if you hurry. The kids are still asleep, of course, all 6 of them. Rushing through the house but trying to be as quiet as possible, you put on the first clothes you take out of the wardrobe and walk out of the apartment. On the elevator landing, there's already a crowd of sleepy people. Even 8 cabins aren't nearly enough to accommodate everyone in the morning. You take your place at the end of the line and wait. 2 elevators arrive, half full already, taking in about a quarter of the people on the landing. It takes another 10 minutes or so for you to finally cram into a cabin and start moving down from the 42nd floor. You feel bad for those living below. They have to wait even longer. It's 6 a.m. when you leave the apartment building and join the rushing crowd outside. As usual for this time of day, there's a huge traffic jam on the road nearby. The crowd of pedestrians is too big, so you have to walk slowly. In about an hour, you get to the subway and stand in line to get inside. It'll take another 40 minutes or so. Still faster than walking all the way to the office or driving. Underground, you have to wait for your turn to hop inside the train. They come every 5 minutes, but there are so many people that even cramming doesn't help. You only manage to get on after another 20 minutes. The doors catching the hem of your jacket. You stand flat against the doors, pushed into them by the press of the people. At the next stop, you have to get off the train to let others out. But when you try to get back, you're pushed by the crowd waiting to hop on and miss your place. Come on! The doors close and you wait another 5 minutes, pressed from all sides by anxious commuters. When the train arrives, you work your elbows urgently to get inside. Got it. You prepare for a long ride ahead. There's a similar ordeal awaiting at the next 4 stops. When you finally get to your station, you're already exhausted. It's 9:20, you're late as expected, and there's still some way to go. A crowd of late runners like you is even larger in the city center, so you take a deep breath and dive in. People are going different ways, so you have to push through, which makes the going painfully slow. If the streets were not so busy, it would take you no more than 15 minutes to get to the place. But in this mess, you spend an entire hour brawling your way. At last, at 10:30, you're at the entrance of your building, Demos, Inc. Despite it being one of the biggest office buildings in the city, there's a line to use the 6 elevators as well. You roll your eyes and set to wait another half hour just to get to your floor already. Wow, you're in the cabin. What a relief! You press the button with number 33 on it and wait. Again. It's 11:03 a.m. You've been awake for almost 6 hours, and yet you've only just arrived at your workplace. Your colleagues are zooming around the floor like ants, and you carefully make your way to your cubicle. At least it's near a window, and you have a great view over the town. You look outside and see the familiar picture. Rows upon neat rows of skyscrapers, most of them apartment buildings combined with offices. It's been over 50 years since the Anomaly happened. No one knows where it started exactly, but people began having quadruplets and even quintuplets much more often than usual. And strangely, it seemed to only affect this city and its suburbs. In the first decade, some decided it was something in the air or water of the town and moved to other places. But it turned out everyone who was born here was affected already. Even those who moved to other countries later reported to have up to jaw-dropping 10 children all at once. And not everyone wanted or even was able to leave town, so something had to be done. That's how Demos Incorporated appeared. Its mission was to both help the city adapt to the new circumstances and investigate the cause of such a birth anomaly. And the measures taken were drastic but efficient. First of all, the corporation invested into real estate development. Bigger families needed more space to live comfortably, so new apartment blocks were built with more rooms and more spacious interiors overall. People were offered to sell their old apartments and houses in favor of newer places to live, and most of them gladly agreed. There was a downside too, though. Those who didn't want to move soon found themselves surrounded by huge construction sites. Eventually, they couldn't stand the noise and dust and agreed to sell their dwellings. The whole city started transforming. Old buildings got demolished to make way for new, taller, and bigger ones. Roads were broadened for transport to move more freely. New businesses were opened to give jobs and services to thousands of new citizens. But that wasn't enough. Population growth was more rapid than city development. Thousands left, but millions stayed. The initiative to restrict birth was met with a massive civil protest and discarded. As a result, even with hundreds of skyscrapers, the city is terribly overpopulated. Its area has grown massively since the anomaly began, and now it's the largest city in the world, not only by population, but by area too. Working conditions have deteriorated as well. More and more people look for jobs that can be carried out from home because of incredible traffic jams. Others have found work in their own or neighboring apartment buildings. Yet others still, like you, are not so lucky. They have to wake up early in the morning just to get to work on time. It's not uncommon to have an alarm set for 4 a.m. At this time, it's relatively crowdless in the streets. Naturally though, nursing and tutoring have been booming all this time. Since every parent now has at least 4 kids to raise, they accept any help they can get. Single people earn good money babysitting for their neighbors and tutoring their kids of school age. Schools, by the way, have been built at an astonishing pace, yet still there aren't nearly enough of them to accommodate all the children. Parents register years ahead of time for their offspring to get elementary education. Entertainment has been hit hard as well. Numerous new restaurants, cinemas, theme parks have been opened within and beyond the city limits. But ordering a table or buying a ticket is a game of incredible chance. With the city population grown tenfold, you must plan your weekend at least 2 weeks ahead. And even going to the countryside for a picnic is an adventure in itself. First, you have to leave the city. Then, find a spot where there won't be crowds of nature-goers like you. And after you're done, it's a trip back home. Normally, people prepare for at least a 2-day stay in the country, because it takes 3 hours just to leave the town and another 3 to get back. Lost in thoughts about all this, you don't notice your colleague approaching you and start when she touches your shoulder. She smiles and apologizes, and you notice a folder in her hand. She traces your gaze and puts the folder on your table, opening it. Inside, you see some documents, but don't understand what they're about. Your colleague points to several paragraphs, and you have to read them 3 times before realization dawns on you like a hammer. It's a set of reports from several cities across the country. There are lots of numbers you can barely understand, but all of the papers have one thing in common. They end with a request for Demos Inc. to open a branch in their respective towns. You count the reports. 17. 17 new cities have just experienced the same baby boom you've been trying to cope with for half a century. Wow, this port is so buzzing. Thousands of people come here every day to work, cargoes come and go, fishers are weighing their catches for the day, and even posh cruise ships pop in here to show this idyllic place to all the people on vacay. The ocean shore is fantastic. People walk along the beach eating ice cream or building sandcastles. Oh, and by the way, right now we're standing where the Sahara Desert used to be. Normally our lifetime is too short to see any major changes. We don't notice mountains rise or the way rivers change their course. Entire valleys may be sinking, but it usually takes too long for them to sink entirely. Still, a group of scientists recently noticed there's a new ocean being formed really fast, and we can even witness it appear. Look here! It's the Afar Triangle. There's the Horn of Africa Peninsula not far away. It's the exact site where the sixth ocean is being born at the moment. Wherever you are, you're basically standing or sitting on a tectonic plate. You're just sitting on a couch watching this video? Cool! Your couch is standing on the floor, your floor makes part of your house is standing on the ground, and if you take a deeper look, it all stands on one of 15 principal tectonic plates. Together, these chunks are referred to as lithosphere. It's like a nice apple pie. The crust is the lithosphere, and the fragile apple filling is everything that's on the planet's surface. If the crust cracks, the filling leaks out. And this is what any earthquake is like. A tectonic plate, aka the crust, moves. The filling, also known as houses and people, is disturbed. Africa is made up of two plates, the Nubian and the Somali ones. Yeah, that's a large pie. And it seems like these two plates are constantly separating. It leads to an oceanic spreading ridge. It looks like the African continent is literally unzipping a part of it at this moment. A 345 square mile chunk of the Sahara Desert just split, so the magma rose. It triggered a series of earthquakes across Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti. And it's not just some minor earthquake. There are lots of fumes rising from those fissures, and it smells like sulfur. Phew! The eruption slowly pushed the old lava sediments away, which is followed by creation of the new seafloor. The crack is filled with magma, and when it cools, it forms the new oceanic floor. If this process doesn't stop, the Red Sea will finally flood the area, forming the sixth ocean, and Africa will be split into two parts. So we'll basically have two Africas. But wait. Neither you nor your grandchildren are going to see that sixth ocean. You'll only have 5 of them throughout your life. Same with our future generations. Same old Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Arctic, and the Southern Oceans. Before the oceanic floor gets solid, and before the Red Sea actually starts flowing in there, many thousands, if not millions of years must pass. The continents move as fast as your nails grow, and imagine that the longest nail ever seen in history was the thumbnail of an Indian man reaching almost 6.5 feet before he cut his nails. It took him almost 60 years to grow it. Now think how far the continents will have to move by the time you celebrate your 100th birthday. Spoiler, it's not going to be very far. But anyway, you can witness some minor changes that take place even now. All those cracks that may not seem that significant so far make all the landscape in the Afar region look really unique. There's a couple more reasons for this uniqueness. Meet Erta Ale in Ethiopia, the volcano famous for its world's longest-lasting lava lake. It's located in the Afar Depression, also known as the Afar Triangle. By the way, depression refers to the sunken area. There's nothing sad about it. It's not the only volcano in this area. Eritrea, known as the Nabro volcano. It's never erupted, yet the lava in this area is pretty active. More volcanoes are to come because of the tectonic plate movements. They pull away from each other, and the Earth's crust gets thinner. The weaker the area is, the more volcanoes there are. Okay, the plates are separating, and it's kind of inevitable. It's just the question of time. This process is also called the Afar plume. We'll get more volcanoes, it's inevitable either. But how does it happen? Remember that apple pie? Yes, it was delicious. Well, things are actually much more complicated. The outer layer we walk on is relatively delicate and is made up of multiple broken pieces. It's like the eggshell or a lattice top on a pie. Let's take a deeper look at all the ingredients of this pie. If you cut a slice, you'll see it's made up of many parts, and there's something called the asthenosphere under the lithosphere. It's part of the Earth's mantle. Yeah, complicated. So the asthenosphere gets heated from within, and it rises, just like the dough when you put it in the oven. Remember those cracks on the surface of a freshly baked loaf of bread? Man, I'm getting hungry. Anyway, This is basically what happens to the Afar Triangle, and those cracks make this area split, creating those famous rifts and valleys that will possibly become so large and will probably get flooded so that the world's sixth ocean will appear there soon. Or not. Nobody's sure about it. Okay, but since the tectonic plates and, which is logical, all the continents are always on the move, we'll probably have more continents in the future. The answer is yes and no. If a part of Africa does split, we'll get one more continent, which is going to be even smaller than Australia. But there's one more possible way of how things will go. Chances are, in the next 250 million years, in the distant 250 million years, there will be no more transatlantic flights. And a walking trip from Japan to Chile will be possible too. Way too long, but possible. It's all happening now, and the first results will be noticeable in some 50 million years from today. I won't be around then. Australia will move towards Southeast Asia, and it's going to fit in just perfectly. And Africa will be pushed to Southern Europe. Still, these transformations will take a really long time. People and continents have something in common. Remember that continents move as fast as our hair and nails grow, just about 1.2 inches a month. Some of them move even 5 times faster though, but even this speed is too slow for 4,500 miles distance between Africa and Europe. One theory tells us the things we've already seen before. Well, you didn't see that with your own eyes. Neither did any of your ancestors who came to America across the Atlantic hundreds of years ago. The fact is, all the continents were once one landmass known as the Pangaea supercontinent. Even though it formed over 300 million years ago and split about 180 million years ago, give or take, it might come back together. So kangaroos can easily migrate from Australia to the UK if they feel like it, but the latter might be accidentally crashed while all the continents merge together. The Americas would collide, Antarctica would drift to them, and it all will merge with the already collided Africa-Eurasia. In this scenario, one large ocean and one large continent will appear, namely Novo Pangaea. Another possible scenario claims the continents might merge into the uniform landmass or form a circle with a large sea inside and the super Pacific Ocean outside. This continent is referred to as Pangaea Ultima. The third theory might be already coming to life. The Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans might just cease to exist, forming the new ocean basin. Eurasia will be split to form a new ocean, and all the continents will migrate to merge into the supercontinent Orica. And the fourth and last theory claims that the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans will remain almost unchanged, and all the continents but Antarctica will merge into one, leaving poor Antarctica even more isolated and abandoned than it is now. Nah, don't feel bad. Since all the continents keep drifting northwards even now, it's quite probable that almost all of them will meet up somewhere at the North Pole. A huge meteorite enters our atmosphere, causing an explosion of catastrophic proportions. All forms of life on Earth cease to exist. A giant wave of fire wraps around the planet several times until only ash and dust remain of the green landscape.
But then again, there's another option for our planet's future. The sun could swallow it.
Wait. Who is this?
In the course of its evolution, our star will keep expanding.
Am I the only one hearing this voice?
Until it gets so big that it just swallows our planet without even noticing it.
Hey buddy, that's my video.
I don't think so.
Okay, alright, I'll share it with you. But let's not look that far into the future.
Whatever you say, buddy. How about the fact that the Earth will soon have rings?
Like Saturn?
Almost. Saturn's rings are made of dust and ice.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Thousands of years ago, something really mysterious happened in Saturn's orbit. The planet's gravity tore one of its satellites apart.
Yes, Saturn is a gas giant. It's 95 times heavier than Earth, so it has stronger gravity. It attracted a small moon from its orbit to its surface. Then, it was torn apart from the inside by tidal forces, like the ones between Earth and Moon. Many huge fragments stuck in Saturn's orbit. Some scientists say there was a collision of two moons there. They crashed into each other like billiard balls. As a result, both cosmic bodies turned into a pile of debris and blocks of ice.
No matter how they got there, this debris started circling Saturn. They collided with each other, turning into smaller rocks. It was a kind of cosmic blender. Rocks gradually ground into dust, and huge blocks of ice turned into small crystals. On average, the objects are in the same ratio to these rings as a human fingernail to a school bus.
And soon, similar rings will appear around Earth.
But how? I mean, we have the moon, and it's hard to imagine that it could break apart at any moment. Plus, we don't have another moon to recreate the same collision in our orbit.
Space junk. We have a lot of it. We started launching spacecraft into Earth's orbit in about 1957, and it almost always follows the same scenario.
Ah, yes. The rocket consists of several parts, a booster, or even several of them, the second stage of the rocket, and a cargo, which is contained in a capsule at the end of the rocket. The booster accelerates the rocket to almost orbit and then undocks. The second stage fires up the engines and climbs even higher to get the cargo into orbit. Then the second stage undocks as well, and the cargo capsule releases the satellite or space probe into outer space.
Yes, the first and the second stages of the rocket and the cargo capsule were disposable. That means they stayed in Earth's orbit. Over time, our planet attracted them. They entered the atmosphere and burned up because of friction with the air. But many objects keep orbiting our planet for decades. As of 2021, there are about 170 million space debris objects in our orbit. These are parts of spacecraft, like the bolts used to undock rocket stages. There are also old artificial satellites, operating ones, functioning spacecraft, and debris from collisions that had already happened.
Oh, I've heard about that. In 2009, two satellites collided with each other. Both satellites were destroyed. They shattered into about 600 pieces of different sizes.
Yes, and these sharp metal fragments are flying in orbit at about 6 miles per second. So they could make a trip from New York to London in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's about the same speed at which our rockets fly. And that's about 45 times faster than commercial airplanes.
So these fragments have a lot of energy. As they collide with each other, they shatter and become smaller.
Just like the moon debris around Saturn.
Exactly.
But a bunch of metal debris orbiting faster than the speed of sound can damage our spacecraft, right?
Yes. The International Space Station has already turned on its engines to maneuver once to avoid a collision with a cloud of space debris. Sharp metal parts can damage the hull of the space station or even puncture it. Then the ISS, worth about $150 billion, would be destroyed.
So, if we keep throwing debris into orbit, we could really give our planet the rings.
And then they will be visible even during the day. They will reflect sunlight, just like the moon. And if you look out the window, you'll see beautiful stripes interrupted by the shadow that the Earth casts.
It's an amazing view. Do you want to see an even more unusual one? Imagine that our sun has increased in size by 10 times, and that process is happening right now. Our star is a giant boiler burning hydrogen. It's continually heating up, and every billion years, the sun gets 10% brighter and creates more heat. It'll heat the Earth more, and eventually, the oceans and seas of our planet will begin to evaporate. Thick clouds will completely cover the sky, turning Earth into a giant greenhouse. Our home will look like Venus.
Looks like humanity will no longer be able to live on Earth. What will we do then?
Well, we'll load all the humans and animals into spaceships and move to Mars. At that point, the sun will have warmed it up nicely. Water and carbon dioxide deep in the planet's interior will begin to evaporate and create an atmosphere there. This will cause a greenhouse effect and warm up the planet enough for you to wear shorts there.
And then we'll watch the Earth become a lifeless rock with acid clouds like Venus from the surface of Mars.
Yep, but in about 7 billion years, the sun will start to expand even more and become a red giant. In this phase, it'll become 256 times wider than it is now. So it will completely swallow Mercury and Venus, and the edge of the star will lie just in the orbit of Earth.
So our planet will just drown in the hot plasma on the sun's surface?
Maybe. But when a star burns so much fuel, it loses weight, and so the sun's gravitational field will weaken as well. So it won't keep the planets of the solar system as close to itself anymore. Perhaps our planet's orbit will become wider, and then Earth will become the first planet near the sun. Some scientists believe that, at this time, Saturn's moon Titan may gain conditions suitable to become a new home for humanity. Then the sun will begin to shed its upper layers. It'll lose mass and gravity dramatically. This will plunge the solar system into chaos.
Some planets will collide with each other. Others may just fly away into the far dark space. It would be a game of cosmic billiards.
Exactly. And the final stage of the sun's life is a white dwarf. Then our star will become the size of Earth. The planets that survive won't get enough heat from the white dwarf, and its light will gradually fade over billions and trillions of years.
Another challenge that awaits Earth in the distant future has a galactic scale.
The collision of the Milky Way and Andromeda.
Bingo! Right now, the Andromeda galaxy is moving toward us at 60 miles per second. You could make a trip around the globe at that speed in just 6 minutes.
Yeah, you can already see the stars and gas of Andromeda Galaxy in the night sky with an unaided eye at 2.5 million light-years from Earth.
And in 4 billion years from now, the galaxies will begin the process of merging. No one could be 100% sure about what will happen to the Earth. It could be total chaos when the stars and nebulae of both galaxies collide. Then supernova explosions would go off everywhere. Like fireworks.
But this is extremely unlikely to happen. The concentration of stars and space objects in galaxies is very low. The distances between them are gigantic. It's like if you took a handful of sand and scattered it all over the planet.
The most likely scenario is that by the time the two galaxies do collide, there will be no liquid water on the hot surface of Earth. That would mean the end to all terrestrial life. Scientists believe it can happen in about 3.75 billion years.